Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode right here on
Dar.
and Rene. And Dao, so what will today's topic be on?
Well, today we're going to talk about the rise of EV in global trend.
Right, and I
Mm.
think on the subject of EVs, it's really interesting topic because
Yep.
what we're going to discuss today is not only on the whole aspects of the financial side, the whole,
Yep.
and everything else about, but also about how can you benefit from EV and EV market.
Looking into the future.
Yes. All right. And
Right,
just to give you
man.
guys a real
Mhm.
quick glimpse into the topic. But before we do that, do make sure you hit on the like and subscribe button if you enjoy this episode, all right, or our whole series,
Yep.
basically. All right. So now let's dive into our topic in today's topic. After COVID-19, the world is paying more attention in maintaining a green planet and reducing their carbon footprint, which I think is very important.
Mhm.
And currently, every country is starting to promote electric vehicles, and we've seen it not only in Singapore but the rest of the world as well. And in this episode, we shall explore the reasons of the rise and, of course, the rise and shine in EVs in the EV market, and how you can capitalize on this trend and make it profitable as an investment.
Exactly.
And with that being said, let me jump now to my very first question, as today is going to be a very intense topic
Shoot.
for our good friend Mr. Dar.
Yep.
All right, first question. Since 2015, the Paris Climate Agreement was formed with the intention to mitigate climate change and reduction of global greenhouse gas emissions. To date, the European Union and 194 countries have signed the treaty to target the reduction of global warming. Da, can you tell us more about the insights on this matter and what are they trying to achieve? A very good question.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, as you mentioned, the Paris Climate Treaty was set up and formed since 2015 by 194 states, all right, including some countries. And the whole idea is to mitigate global warming and to reduce greenhouse gas emission. In short, we call it GHG.
Right.
All right. So basically, there are two targets here set in the treaty. Number one is to reduce the global GHG by 55% before year 2030. And the second target is to reduce global warming by 2 degrees Celsius before the year 2050. Right.
Let me just interject in for a little second there.
Mhm.
So 2050, which is
Right.
maybe about 20 years from now,
Very
do you think
fast.
is a feasible target, or is it possible, or is it achievable? And what if they don't
Well,
achieve
bro,
it?
I just gotta tell you, they have to do it. Well, the reason is because after 2050, all right, if the global warming is not reduced by 2 degrees Celsius, and we're gonna have a lot of natural disaster like
Flooding,
the floodings, all right, the
Right.
melting of icebergs,
right?
which result in tsunami, earthquake, volcanic eruptions, and human race is going to face a lot of threats and probably facing extinction. All right, these are all testified by the weather experts and the scientists.
Right. Okay.
Well,
Okay. So now, let's jump to my next question then.
okay,
Okay, that means all countries will begin to abandon gasoline-driven and even
Right.
diesel-driven vehicles
yes,
before the year 2030, which you know I think is a lot
hard
of countries
landing, huh?
yes, a lot of body has talked about. Hence, the rise of EVs will be very rapid and also will overtake the conventional vehicles on the road. Is
Yep.
that possible? Because I remember that many countries depend on gasoline tax as a major income. Moreover, what kind of electricity supply are we talking about in order to charge up the EVs every day in countrywide demand?
Well, good question again. All right,
Yes.
two important points. Well, number one, yes, it is true that on the whole world, most of the countries depend a lot on the taxation.
Yeah, gasoline.
All right, gasoline or petroleum. So, a lot of countries have actually started to implement a new thing called carbon tax.
Right.
All right, this is in replacement for the taxation on petroleum. Even in Singapore, we have started to issue carbon tax this year on all the listed companies and
Right.
gradually going to all these small medium enterprises over the next few years. All right, so this is very important, and we have no choice. We got to abandon all the gasoline and diesel-driven vehicles on the road. Well, regarding on the consumption, all right. Well, typically, a home fridge will take about 2 kilowatt, all right, per day.
Okay.
All right, to run the fridge.
Right.
Whereas for EV, in order to charge up the full battery,
Mhm.
it's going to take about 30 to 50 kilowatt,
Well, that's quite a lot.
and yeah, that's quite a lot. And
Yeah.
to charge about that let it able to run about 500 kilometers,
Right.
which is going to last for about 5 or 6 days. So to divide by this number, it's going to be about 10 kilowatts. So theoretically, all right, the electrical consumption of a EV is about 5 times, okay, over a home fridge. And if you actually put a simple equation on that,
Right. Yeah, because I've heard the argument that a lot of people are saying that yes, I know, even though while we're still trying to maintain sustainability, but the fact that
Yep.
when you create an EV, you're actually also you're also losing, like, so-called creating more carbon in the air, because the process of creating EVs is not as simple as what people are discussing now, even though they try to maintain it as sustainable as possible.
Let
And
me
yeah,
interject a bit,
yeah,
which is the reason why we are all converting to renewable energies now,
right,
using solar panel
okay,
or wind farm or hydro farm to generate electricity. Otherwise, the massive usage on the
power, right,
EV
yeah,
charger and power,
yeah,
is
exactly.
going to create the greenhouse emission again.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And also, I was going to mention that example for Singapore, where we have this Jurong Island, which produces a lot of our petroleum needs, and our refineries as well.
Yep.
So I mean, they are also going to probably find a way to repurpose that whole factory to create EVs. What's your thoughts on that one as well?
Well, I think ultimately, regardless of what our government is going to do, we got to bring as I mentioned, the GHG to zero. Okay, eventually we call carbon net zero.
Right.
That's the technical word. Okay. And in fact, if we go into carbon negative, then it's going to be carbon credit,
right,
which can turn into money. And we're going to talk about that later.
Okay.
On monetization.
Cool. All right. Now, on my next question now. Now, I want to go a bit deeper. A bit deeper in the topic.
Deeper. All right.
And discuss the materials now. We're talking about materials, okay,
right.
Behind the EVs. Since we are aware that it doesn't need petroleum energy to drive the vehicles, what type of batteries are essentially used, and in terms of raw materials as well, to manufacture the battery?
Well, of course, to run an EV, we need lithium-ion batteries.
Right.
All right, and the raw material basically comprises lithium carbonate,
right,
cobalt, nickel. All right, and the biggest manufacturer that actually produces these EV batteries, actually on the Asia part, we have the Japan, South Korea, China. Then on the western part, we have the Sweden, Germany, UK, and, well, of course, US.
Right. Yeah. Okay, and which country basically is the biggest manufacturer of lithium?
China, batteries? Man, brother. China. Definitely, yeah. Because China actually has most of these resources in the country. So which is why they are the biggest manufacturer, and they make about 75% supply on all the EV batteries around the world. Right. And this is the reason why Tesla is actually setting up a factory in China as well, in order to cut costs.
Right. Yeah. I recently read as well that Elon Musk did a visit to China.
Exactly.
And met presidency as well. Okay. And now on to my next question, which is, I think, is part of the whole investment aspect of EVs right here.
Well, that's my cup of tea, man.
Yeah, exactly. So how would an investor take the opportunity to invest in this EV future of ours?
Well, I think to take a free ride and a quick vehicle on this investment, definitely, I think all of you got to look at some of these important stocks listed in Hong Kong, like, for example, this BYD,
right?
All right, BYD Electronics. We have the XPeng, XPENG, Xiaopeng. Then we have the Li Auto. These are all the EV makers. Right. And most importantly, NIO, NIO is even listed in Singapore. Yes. Then, of course, if you talk about US, I think Tesla is going to be a big time. Everybody is putting investment into this company. So these are all the vehicles that I think, if they grow, you will grow with them if you become one of the shareholders in the company. Okay,
so there you go, folks. A really intense and kind of a quick topic, I would say, on EVs and the future of EVs, and of course, like Dar just gave you some investment tips as well. And now it's time to move on to our home viewers' question. And today, actually, for this topic, we actually had quite a bit of questions, but I kind of took only two, man. And one will be this is the first one we have for my good friend Dar here. I have a question which happens to be from Jeanette from Bio. Okay?
Jeanette.
Yes, and Dar, and she's asking, here's a tough nut for you. Singapore has aimed to be net zero by 2050. And when more countries are getting to net carbon zero benchmark, or even becoming carbon negative, that means this will become carbon credit, correct? Okay, hence, what do you foresee in the future of carbon credit, and is there any way to invest in carbon credit? How big is this forthcoming opportunity? Thank you. Wow, long question.
Oh, that is a very tough question again from Jeanette, right? Jeanette.
Yes, I was having a problem reading here as well.
All right.
Okay.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, all right, in the first part of this video, by signing the Paris Climate Treaty, 194 states are aiming to be carbon net zero.
Right.
All right. Carbon net zero. That means when they take the whole equation on carbon emission and some green projects, it has to be carbon zero.
Okay.
But if you happen to be carbon negative, yes, it becomes carbon credit, and this carbon credit can be monetized. All right. So whether you like it or not, I think into the future, because a lot of industries will be paying carbon taxes, and one way to offset the carbon taxes at a low price is actually to own carbon credit. So carbon credit is either you manufacture it or you got to purchase from the open market. So in other words, carbon credit will become a financial instrument. All right, and it's going to be epitomized in the whole world by all investors and industrial player, governments, tax board. So this is something I think very potential. All right, and of course, if you ask me how to take another fast ride on this carbon credit program, I think you should be taking a look at this fund advisor, okay, called Crane Shares, which is a Chinese company, and they have actually issued and list a couple of carbon ETF trading in New York Stock Exchange now.
Right.
And two important one is a symbol KCCA, and the other one is KRBN. KRBN. Take a look at these two.
Right.
All right. It's going to fetch you some money into the future. It's a long-term investment on carbon credit.
Right. Okay.
Right.
There you go, Jeanette. Some investment tips there from
Yes.
Dar himself. Okay. And the next question is basically, I think, for me. Okay. I have a view of ours, Darren. Okay, is planning on buying an EV in Singapore, and is still unsure whether it makes sense to sell his present ride or get an EV, and he's staying in a HDB. Okay, Darren. So I'm going to take this question for basically for on behalf of both of us. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to keep it as short as possible, because a lot of news and a lot of people have been talking about EVs, especially in Singapore, and the kind of benefits as well. And just to give you a rough idea, for those of you not familiar, Singapore basically now has about 3,600 charging stations in Singapore, and the government plans to add the number or increase the number up to 60,000 by 2030.
Wow, that's about 20 times.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Which shows their commitment to
okay,
creating a whole EV infrastructure.
Yep.
Okay, and if you're talking about charging stations itself, right now in Singapore, basically there's two kinds of charging stations. We have the AC and the DC. And the difference being that with an AC charging station, it's called a slow charging, which means that if you plug your car in, it's going to take you about 8 hours to
that's a long
reach,
time.
Yeah, reach about 80%.
Yep.
But the good news is Singapore has also been adding a lot of fast charging or higher or DC charging, as we call it, where some of the highest ones I've seen go up to 150 kilowatts, which means you can charge your car under 30 minutes.
That is very high power, man.
Yeah, exactly, which I think is ideal for a lot of you guys who don't want to waste time and just want to do a quick charge. So Darren, once again, two types of charging stations for you, AC and DC. And of course, if you're talking about how many players are in the market, there's about 5 of them in the market right now. And we have people like
Singapore Power.
Yeah, Singapore Power. You also have Shell as well. So these are just some of the players in the market.
Big players, huh?
Right. And in terms of a rebate, because you're asking about staying in HDBs and stuff like that. So right now the government has actually also giving you rebates in terms of if you ever buy an EV. Things like they have this thing called the EAI, okay, or the early adoption scheme, where if you decide to buy an EV, you get some rebates as well. And then also they have the the EVE or scheme, or we call it the VS scheme, basically. Okay, and also they're gonna give you some rebates on your ARF. Also floor reduction on your road tax as well. So really tons and tons of benefits on why
Singapore government is friendly.
Yes. So basically lots of reasons for why you wanna go onto an EV. I'm not gonna go into car brands because that's going to be a whole different topic, and a lot of things. So basically, if you're asking me, should you now or later decide to go, to get an EV? For right now, I mean, the government itself has mentioned that with the new ruling as well, 1 in the 3 HDB estates will have a charging station, which to me is basically still will not solve the problem if you're planning to get EV, because if somebody hogs that station, basically you can't charge your car.
Yep.
All right. So in a nutshell, that's as much information as I can
think,
give
bro,
you.
to end this video, I think it's now or later.
Correct, exactly.
In a matter of time, okay?
Yes.
Whether Darren likes it or not, you like it or me like it, the whole world, we are all going to EV.
Correct.
That's why today's topic is the rise of EV in global trend, right?
Right. So, Darren, I hope I kind of managed to answer your question as well. And for Jeanette, I hope that I managed to answer your question. And on behalf of myself, Rene, and
Dar,
we want to say thank you so much for joining us for another episode right here on
Dar
and Rene.
Signing off.